In this video, we want to look at how to display the information that is on the database in this enterprise tier. How we're going to do that is we're going to create a Java servlet in the client tier that calls the Java beans in the enterprise tier, which gets the information from the registration database in the enterprise tier. We're back in NetBeans. I'm going into the registration project WAR file. I'm going to right click and add a new other. We want this to be a web servlet. Clicking next. I will call this display registry servlet. And we will create a package for this called the display registry servlet pkg, and we will make the first character lowercase. So display registry servlet package. Clicking next. Do we want to add the information to the deployment descriptor web XML file? We can. And finish. To get this servlet to communicate with our enterprise Java beans, we're going to add in 2 lines right under the public class. Those lines will be Ejb private registry facade local and registry facade. Notice these have the same names as the enterprise beans we created: registry facade local and registry facade. I'm going to right click and click on Fix Imports to get rid of these 2 errors right there. It's telling us it wants to add in the registry facade local and the Ejb statements. We want this. I'll click OK. There we see that it added in the registry facade, and there's our Ejb import. The errors went away. Now we can add in the code that actually gets the information from the database that we can display it onto the web page. And down here we see HTML. We're going to delete what they have. So right here at line 37, this response dot set current type all the way down to that first closing bracket. I'll add a few empty lines. And I'm going to paste in the code to show the database on the screen. First thing I want to do is get rid of these errors. So I'm going to right click and fix imports again. It's going to bring in the list and the registry. That's good. And it looks like we've got some more errors down here. It is because I misspelled address earlier, if you caught that. Get address to with 1 D instead of 2. Now let's save this. We don't have any errors, so let's look at what we are doing with the code. We're getting that list of registries when we do our find all, and we'll see that up in the registry facade local. We're calling right here list registry find all, and that can be found in the registry Java. When we see the find all right here, registry find all, select everything from the registry table. So that's how it's working here. It's actually calling this right here in our registry facade local. So it's grabbing everything, putting it into this registry list. The next thing I'm doing is creating a registry for registrant. So when I grab a single row from the table, I can put it into registrant and display that single row. Going down further, we're starting with the HTML. We are using a style sheet. Let's create the style sheet. And to make sure I don't have any typos, I'm going to copy and create, and this is again in the registration project-war. New, Other, Web, Cascading Style Sheet. We're going to give it the name that I just copied to make sure there's no typos. Finish. And once again, I'm going to paste in the data. And this is not a CSS course, so we're not going to talk about the CSS. It's very simple, very basic. I'm going to save that. Looking back at our servlet, we're going to print out a header that says registration database tables. In the table itself, we've got a for-i, so we can loop through our registry list. Right here, it's just checking the odd and even. If it's even, it's going to print it in one color. If it's an odd number, it will print it in the odd number CSS. And this is where it's actually getting the registrant.get first name, get last name, get address. So we're going to loop through the registry list, printing out every other one a different color. When we're done, we close the table, put in a footer, and that's all there is to this whole servlet. One thing I forgot to do in the previous tutorial was to deploy the Ejb project. So I better do that right now or this won't work. Let's deploy. The build is successful. If your build was not successful, you may want to make sure you're upgraded to the current version of Glassfish. I had to upgrade to version 4.1 before I was able to get a successful build. Now I'm going to do clean and build for the entire project on this triangle up here. This build is successful, so I'm going to right click on this triangle and run. And what it's showing right here, to do write content, that is coming from this index HTML. That's the default. I want it to point to this display registry servlet. So I'll type that in. Display registry servlet. And there we have it. There's our header, there's our footer, and the two records that are on the table. We do have a problem with this last one being printed in the wrong color. We can fix that by looking at right here, cell even, then we've got cell odd. This should be cell even. Save, right click, clean and build, and right click, run. Once again, it brings it up to the index file. I'm going to change that to display registry servlet, and there we have it. Everything looks just as it should.